Okay, we're going to start with 749. We'll start with Senator Ellis. He'll be followed by Jacqueline Lee at the University of Maryland, Ian Hurd, and Deotha Sweat, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. Then we will go to Tyne Kidd. Then we will go to Ongisi McKenzie and Malachi Macon, who are favorable with amendments. Then we'll take questions. Then we'll move to the opponents, and they include Tina Wilson, Linda McLaughlin, and Amanda Stewart. So we have plenty of witnesses on this bill. Knowing Senator Ellis, there's going to be some controversy. So his bills are always challenging all of us. So we appreciate that of Senator Ellis. So Senator Ellis, you're the leadoff person today, so please present 749.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of, esteemed members of the Education, Health, Environmental Affairs Committee. Thank you for your, for this opportunity to present Senate Bill 747, which is a local bill, a Charles County bill having to do with the Board of Education and the memberships. Currently, the Board of Education members are elected at large, countywide. And currently we have major parts of our community, our county, not represented on the board. The majority of our citizens are not represented on the board. You know, and in this era, I mean, we're working so hard on a lot of equity issues in Annapolis this year. And I'm so proud of this body that we're taking up. We're not hiding from these equity issues. We're addressing them and we're working to correct it. And I strongly believe that this is one of those issues in Charles County which needs to be corrected. We have other districts in Maryland that have district-wide voting for the school board. That means not county-wide. You know, we want to increase the opportunity for all our citizens to participate in democracy, not just folks who have the biggest checkbooks, have the richest supporters, but citizens with great ideas, involving the community, regular parents who might be working hard every day at a job in the District of Columbia, who come home, they are involved in PTA, they're involved in all these issues. They don't have deep pockets. At the same time, they're deeply involved in the community. They're working really hard in the schools, but they are shut out when they run for election because they don't have the deep pockets in order to support them to run and to win. And we see the disparity there with the current makeup of the school board. This bill also calls for voting rights for the student member. This body authorized that for Montgomery County last year. And my research showed that quite a few other counties have students, board members who have voting rights. So this bill called for limited voting rights for the student member of the Board of Education. And I know that we have quite a few bills today. So, and for the testimony that's coming up, they will go into the details. Witnesses will go into the details about the disparity that exists and how this bill attempt to address to correct those disparities. And I also want to say this is a cross-file bill. You know, delegates and the Charles County senators with Senator Jackson, new senator, he replaced, no one replaced Senator Miller, but he is moving into that seat, District 27. He's also a Charles County senator. He's fully supportive of this bill. So we are determined to bring equity and inclusion in all aspects of our society. And this bill addressed one small area, school board elections. So colleagues are asked for a favorable recommendation for Senate Bill 749, Charles County Local Board of Education, its membership and alterations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and colleagues.
Thank you, Senator Ellis, for your presentation. Ms. Jacqueline Lee, it might be professor or doctor, I just can't tell. Jacqueline Lee. Is Ms. Lee here?
I don't see Ms. Lee on here yet.
Okay, we will move on and we'll come back to her. Ian Hurd.
Mr. Chairman, could I just jump in? I thought my office made Ms. Diotha Sweat the lead witness for this bill.
That's
I'm
fine.
not sure.
Ian Hurd is in the room, Mr. Chair. He's muted, but he was.
Well, if the senator would like Ms. Sweat to go first.
Yeah, she's president of the Charles County branch of the NAACP.
Okay, Ms. Sweat, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman Pinsky and esteemed members of the committee. As stated, my name is Diotha Sweat, and I am the president of the Charles County NAACP. It is an honor to be here today. I am representing the Charles County NAACP in support of Senate Bill 0749. Charles County school system has approximately 26,000 students. And we currently elect 7 members to govern over that body at large to manage those students. Currently, of the 7 members that are elected by the voters of Charles County, 4 members live in District 1, 2 members live in District 2, 1 member lives in District 3, and District 4 has absolutely no representation. Currently, there are 38 public schools in Charles County. Of those 38 public schools, 18 of those schools reside in Districts 3 and District 4. To further paint a picture of the inequity of representation in the county, Charles County has 23 elementary schools. 10 of those schools reside in Districts 3 and 4. 6 of the 10 reside in District 4 with no representation. We have 8 middle schools. 4 of those schools reside in District 3 and 4, and 2 of those middle schools reside in District 4 with no representation. 8 high schools, 4 reside in Districts 3 and 4, and 2 of those schools are in District 4 with no representation. So there are a total of 10 schools in Charles County right now that does not have an elected official that represents them on the school board. Currently, our teachers union endorses members to be on the board. And to date, 6 of the 7 members are endorsed members from our school union. So again, the equity representation is not there. I would also like to share with the board that the Charles County NAACP is in favor of our students having a voting voice on the board. We are advocating for this at the state level for all 24 school districts, that the student that is representing the student body has a voting voice at the table. Also in 2014, the state of Missouri State Conference of the NAACP sued the Ferguson School District for this very reason, because it is a violation of the Voting Rights of 1965, Section 2. What was ruled was that the at-large voting depletes and dilutes the Black vote in the district where a large population of Black students reside. This ruling was upheld in the U.S. Court of Appeals in St. Louis in 2016 unanimously, because it furthermore stated that the Black voter had less opportunity to elect their preferred candidates than other members of the electorate. When we have a large population of students that their voting parents, their voting grandparents, their voting relatives do not have an opportunity to vote who the individual is to represent them, we need to have a conversation, and we need to rectify that problem. And because of that, we are here today to support the bill, Senate Bill 0749, favorable vote, that the voting, at-large voting in Charles County is changed through this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sweat. Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Hurd, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Pinsky, Vice Chair Kagan, and members of the Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee. My name is Ian Hurd, and I serve as Charles County's student member of the Board of Education, as well as Chairman of the Maryland Youth Advisory Council. I am speaking in support of Senate Bill 749. For the past 2 years, I have been actively involved with the Charles County Board of Education. First, as a student leader, advocating for youth objectives, and now as the student member, serving as a representative of the 27,000 students in Charles County Public Schools. It is my immense honor today to speak to this committee about the benefits student member voting rights has to offer to Charles County. Students are by far the largest stakeholder within Charles County Public Schools. Action taken by the school board directly impacts the lives of our students. With this in mind, we think including our largest stakeholder with one vote and thus weight in our decision-making will benefit not just the students of Charles County, but the entire institution of public education itself. Student members are a window straight into the classroom, bringing issues that may have otherwise been overlooked and underestimated to the board's attention. Student members have proven their worth in boardrooms across the state. Jurisdictions across the state have opted to give their students a seat at the table, including Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, Harford County, Howard County, Montgomery County, and Prince George's County. The institution of student member voting rights dates back to Anne Arundel County in 1975. Since then, a lot has changed in Maryland, but one thing has remained the same: the intrinsic value and power of student involvement and engagement in the systems of government that directly affect them. Throughout the process of advocating for student member voting rights, a common rebuttal I have seen is that student members would have a lack of experience to be making these decisions. Our student members, juniors and seniors in high school, have been living in their school systems for over a decade by the time they are elected to serve. Student members have a unique perspective that distinguishes them from all other board members. They not only take part in the decision-making process, but they directly see and live through the implementation of those decisions. I respectfully request that this committee affirm the role our students play in their education system and deliver a favorable report on Senate Bill 749. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Tyne Kidd, please. Please, Ms. Kidd.
On behalf of Charles County, on the behalf of Charles County Association of Student Councils, I'm Tyne Kidd, the president of CCASC, and I'm here to advocate on behalf of students with Charles County. These students are not just students, they're delegates, peers, and my friends. And as Ian said, we are the largest stakeholder in a matter like this. So please note that we are here speaking out, encouraging you guys to support. I think it's coherent to note that student members of the board are highly capable beings, being able to take on the privilege of voting, and they're greatly serviceable to the Board of Education. This is because they're not just student representatives, they're one of us. They're the ones who stay in the classrooms with us and attend weekly classes alongside the people they're representing. And they provide a diverse perspective because they get to interact with us on a daily basis. They're the ones who are active on multiple student platforms to ensure constant communication between the board and students. And they provide clarity on all student matters. They ensure that no matter what, students' voices are heard. In previous years, you can view student members of the board and see that they're the ones who create the forums. They attend individual school meetings and SEAs and clubs. They host those discussions that are necessary to ensure that multiple perspectives of students are advocated upon during our board meetings. Because of this, our SMOB will always be the one to provide that essential perspective that is beneficial to all affected parties. One of the most significant things to point out is that it's happening now. Looking at surrounding counties like Montgomery and Anne Arundel, and even our devoted Maryland Board of Education, you will always find a hardworking SMOB doing their job for the students. This is why Within Charles County, we can assure you it will occur the same way. There is an abundance of passionate student leaders who possess these same capabilities, who are ready to take on the privilege of partial voting rights. For years and years, we have worked diligently to educate ourselves of the responsibility and dedication that comes with such student suffrage. We are not only prepared, but also wholeheartedly committed to taking the next steps. And with your influence and support, we will be able to project Charles County to the forefront of student membership, following the footsteps of the American Board of Education, who allocated student voting rights all the way back in 1989. So together, we can continue paving the way for the time where student input is valued, the time where our opinion and perspective is not just limited to consideration and being heard, but fully accounted for. We will continue to work diligently to ensure this time comes, and we support that could be today. Thank you for all that you're doing. We're looking forward to a brighter future that we're heading towards.
Thank you, Ms. Kidd. We have two favorable amendments. I'm going to hear from them, and then we'll open up the questions. Ms. Achille McKenzie.
Hello.
Yep.
Can you see me, everybody?
You're perfect.
All righty. Well, my name is Angasa Ichile McKenzie. I'm really glad to be with you all today. Thank you for allowing me to speak. We at Southern Marylanders for Racial Equality want to submit a favorable request for this bill because there's a critical need for equity among all areas of Charles County. As you heard from President Sweat from the NAACP, we have districts with no representation, and they have needs that are potentially being overlooked because our school board members being elected at large. So we want to make sure that, one man, one vote really becomes a reality for our county. And this bill also would ensure that the students have a voice. So as you've heard from our student leaders, Ian heard, as well as there's other student groups down here that we've met with in my organization that have expressed multiple times on social media, et cetera, that this is what our students want. And just as a parent, just as an adult, for everyone in this committee, everyone on this Zoom meeting, we know that there is only so much we, as not being a part of this generation, can know in the life of a teenager. They live 80% of their lives online. They are now virtually schooled. And so they just have a set of unique needs that previous generations will never fully wrap ourselves around because we did not grow up in the digital age. So just that alone indicates to me that it is at this moment especially critical for them to have a voice, a voting voice on the school board. And with this bill, we can finally give them agency in the system that controls their daily lives and their outcomes. The amendments we propose would be to use the 4 currently established commissioner districts and electing 2 members per district, with 1 more board member being the board president at large. So that would be a total of 8 plus the 1 at large, 8 representatives plus the 1 at large. Also, we would amend the 2- and 4-year term for board members that are staggered with the even and odd numbered districts, and to serve equal term lengths to ensure just that extra layer of equity for all districts. And we can make all of our schools in Charles County equally great and equally represented. And that's all we have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKenzie. Malachi Macon, you're favorable with amendments?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Chairman Pinsky and esteemed committee members. I am Malachi Macon, a former 2019 student member of the Fredrick County Board of Education, and I am here on behalf of the Maryland Youth Advisory Council to express their support for Senate Bill 749. The Maryland Youth Advisory Council was formed in 2008 on the basis of expanding youth leadership opportunities in the legislative realm for youth aging from 14 to 22 years old. This focus and support for youth leadership has always been a core value of the Council, and correspondingly, the Council makes it a priority to support student member voting rights whenever and wherever possible. The Council recognizes the importance of youth voices on boards of education, and I personally can attest to that. Student members on the boards of education are responsible and passionate individuals, capable of presenting new and valuable perspectives, which may have been overlooked otherwise. As students, they, along with their peers, are primary constituents and therefore the heart of each and every school system. Their input on any issue proves extremely valuable because everything affects them in one way, shape, or form. Therefore, it is paramount that the student members' input be solidified with an official vote. The Maryland Youth Advisory Council supports Senate Bill 749 with one potential amendment. Maintain the current age requirement for board member candidacy of 18 years of age. The council understands the need to ensure that candidates for the Charles County Board of Education are qualified and tenured residents of Charles County. However, the council believes raising the age to run for office to 21 years of age or requiring candidates to be registered voters of 3 years, a requirement that cannot be met by a legal adult of 18 years age, is not an effective way to ensure those qualifications. The closer policymakers are in tune with the experiences of youth, the more effective youth policies will be, the more empowered and productive youth citizens will become, and the greater benefit there is to the lives of youth as a whole. The council is confident that Senate Bill 749 will ensure the growth of civic engagement within Charles County for decades to come. For these reasons, the council supports Senate Bill 749 with amendments and respectfully requests a favorable report from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Macon. Floor is open for questions. I see the Vice Chair Kagan has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a statement and a question. The statement, first off, I'm delighted that Mr. Hurd, Ms. Kidd, and Mr. Macon were with us today. Student leadership is our future. And I have to say, Senator Ellis, I actually voted for the very first SMOB, student member on the Board of Education, when I was in high school. So we are not new to this game. This goes back to the like 1600s or something. And the person whom we elected is now on the county board of elections and is still very much active and a lawyer and a community leader. So I believe very much in the concept of student member on the Board of Education. And my question briefly is, are you aware that this issue has come up on the floor of the House for Montgomery County? And there was just an amendment that was passed following exactly what Charles County is talking about. So, if you have any insights or opinions about that, that's a little bit of an "isn't that so" softball your way.
Well, it was put as a question. Am I aware? And oh, am I? Oh my goodness. So
Okay.
that bill in the House has taken on a life of its own.
Yes.
It's House Bill 655 put in by Delegate Crosby. Not just, well, it was initially for district-wide voting instead of county-wide voting for commissioners affecting Charles County, Calvert, St. Mary's, and a few other, Garrett and Queen Anne's. And so it just passed today, passed the House. So it's coming over to our committee very soon. And they amended Montgomery County School Board elections also to do exactly what this bill for Charles County is requesting that we do. So
well, thank you for the leadership in helping provoke that conversation, because I think it's overdue for Montgomery County. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me ask the sponsor a question. As I read the bill, it calls for 6 districts. And I think in the testimony, it said currently there are 4. Now, Ms. McKenzie or Ichil McKenzie suggested retaining the 4 and having 2 from each district. Is there a strong, look, you can always change lines and people adapt to them. You know, they feel more comfortable if it's the same district. However, if the districts were shaped in such a way as to be discriminatory, that's also a problem. So I guess my question to you is 6 or 4, is there a strong opinion? And if so, why?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. And so I've had extensive discussions with the stakeholders in the county, and I would definitely be willing to accept Mrs. McKenzie's amendment to have 2 board members for each of the current commissioner districts. There are 4 current commissioner districts in Charles County. So that'll be 8. So that will be very familiar to the voters. And so I'm very open to accepting that amendment and to submit that for a voting session.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, we're going to move to the opposition. I see no further questions. Let's start with Tina Wilson, a member of the Charles County Board of Education. She'll be followed by Linda McLaughlin from the Teachers Association of Charles County. And then they will be followed by Amanda Stewart from Charles County government. Please. You need to unmute, Ms. Wilson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee, my name is Latina Wilson. I serve as chairman of the Charles County Board of Education. I am here today to express opposition of Senate Bill 749. The Charles County Board of Education's concern with this bill is that there has not been sufficient opportunity for public input. The bill is a significant change in which we elect our Board of Education. As you know, our community has an interest in who serves on the board and how they are chosen. Changing the current structure of the board demands extensive public input to ensure the preference of our community and is reflected in the process. We have roughly 160,000 plus citizens and over 27,000 students. We understand the pandemic makes community outreach incredibly challenging. It is vital that we honor the public process and protect its integrity by ensuring the citizens of Charles County are afforded the opportunity to weigh in on their right to vote. If this bill goes through, it establishes an unbelievable bad precedent for future important public policy. Annually, the Board of Education holds a joint public meeting involving the county commissioners and our delegation. This past year, there was no discussion about this bill. As you know, the bill also contains full student voting rights that on its own device deserves significant discussion, including the legal ramification. The Charles County Board of Education recently convened a special work session to discuss this topic and afforded the public the opportunity to weigh in. We carefully weighed that, and we afforded the student board member the opportunity to present his position. We voted against it. Respectfully, I ask that you vote against this bill to protect the public process, to allow for a broader public participation. Give the citizen of Charles County the opportunity to weigh in on how they choose their Board of Education members. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Ms. McLaughlin.
Good afternoon, Chairman Pinsky, Vice Chair Kagan, and members of the Senate Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee. My name is Linda McLaughlin, and I am the proud president of the Education Association of Charles County. As president of the EACC, I speak for over 2,000 certificated educators whose livelihoods are directly impacted by education legislation. I'm speaking to you today in opposition to Senate Bill 749, which would alter the way school board members are elected, as well as award full voting rights to the student member of the board. Let me be clear. I am not against representation of or a diverse population being represented by elected leaders from their community. As a local union leader, I am an advocate for people having voice, and that is where my objection lies. What I object to with this legislation is the process that skipped over voices from being heard from the very community and the legislation that it would possibly improve. For the legislation that would affect local constituents directly, I would have expected a conversation or open meeting with the Board of Education, with county commissioners, or a public forum to gather feedback from parents and other community stakeholders, such as educators. None of these three things happened. EACC held a legislative reception on January 6th, to which elected officials were invited and discussed numerous issues. This bill was not one of them. As has been mentioned, the bill suggests 6 districts, and currently there are 4 county commissioner districts. If this bill is to streamline processes and representation, and based on the current existing structure, what is the intent and rationale for 6 districts? Had there been a public forum, constituents could have asked questions such as this. And as a point of information, District 4 has had representation on the Board of Education for 15 years. The equity is there. The second piece of Senate Bill 749 that I oppose is the full voting rights for the student member of the board. As Mr. Hurd said, student voice is a unique perspective that is a positive inclusion in school decisions, but full voting rights are not appropriate. Students should not be subjected to the intense scrutiny and public pressure that elected adults are as members on the school board. Ask any of our school board members during this pandemic how they've been pressured, and they'll tell you. Students should not be voting on school boundaries, redistricting, personnel issues, appeals, collective bargaining, things like that, for example. Students simply do not have the life experience or maturity to make decisions such as these. Full voting rights would create a situation, as has been seen in other counties, where students can be lobbied by adult groups to fulfill their own self-interests. I urge the Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee to oppose this bill. Though the intent was good, the improvements in representation might be positive, the process that was implemented seemed overreaching and without public and locally elected input. Democracy where there is no transparency is not democracy, nor does it engender trust or faith in our elected officials and institutions. It is my hope that this bill could be studied over the summer to provide time for public input to be sought and incorporated into the legislation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. Ms. Stewart.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Senator Pinsky and committee members. My name is Amanda Stewart. I serve as a Charles County Commissioner in District 3. I'm also a mom and an educator for over 20 years. I'm joining you today in opposition of Senate Bill 0749 in its entirety. The one first point about redistricting, I am against that, but I'm here today to speak specifically about the full voting rights for a student government member. Now, as an educator, and I've taught middle school and high school, and I know that we have some fabulous students and especially being educated in Charles County, Maryland. I am concerned specifically about the voting age of the member. The bill is presented stating that the member could be in the 11th grade or 12th grade, which means the member can be 16, 17, and 18. Well, if you look at the bill, it states that the school board members would have to be of age 21 to run for that office. Well, if a 16, 17, or 18-year-old is sufficient of age to make voting recommendations on the full board, why not set the age at 16, 17, 18? Well, I think most of us would have various reasons why we would vote against that. Now, I'll give you an example what happened in December in Howard County. The parents in Howard County filed a lawsuit because the student cast a vote to keep schools closed for returning to in-person classes. The suits that were brought forth by the parents argues that giving a high school student the right to vote on school board decisions violates the Maryland Constitution because the student is not 18 years of age and is not eligible to vote in elections or to hold an elected office. So as a resident of Charles County, I take it very serious when I vote for the school board members. I attend the various meetings that we have, and I listen to the whole host of folks running for that position. I expect that the folks that I vote for and the people that are elected into that position, I can hold them accountable for the choices that they make. I can reach out to them and ask them questions about their decisions and their votes that they make. That will not be appropriate to do with a child. As an educator, thank you so much. Okay, as an educator in the state of Maryland, we are not allowed to communicate with students because of their underage. It would be inappropriate to give full voting rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, questions for the opponents? Questions for the opponents? Let me just make one comment, and I assume isn't that so? For Ms. Stewart and others, as I understand it, around the state, there are various levels and degrees of voting rights for students. It is not an all or nothing. Some have partial voting rights on certain areas and not on personnel matters, for example, or on budget. So there are many variations on a theme. It's not like you have to be all in or all out. There are some counties that have tried with partial voting rights and then have expanded them as the student has shown, the person holding the student position showed maturity and responsibility. So I'm not advocating, I'm just saying there are variations on that theme. I think the bill is fairly clear. I think we've heard both sides. I see no, oh, I'm sorry, Senator Washington.
Wanted to ask that, and then thank you all for coming, and also thank you, Senator Ellis, for this bill. I'm a strong advocate of student rights, and also these three students have just, I think, testified with a level of decorum and intelligence that you should all be very, very proud, and I think they'd all be great board members. I had a question about the redistricting. It sounds like the sponsor is saying that he's open to maintaining the existing redistricting, but just separating out so that ensuring that each side is represented. Are you less opposed with that amendment, specifically on the redistricting part? Does that affect your position?
Thank you.
Well, no, I was going to ask. I mean, I was going to ask.
That was for the opponents.
For the opponents.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Could I hate to do this. Can one of you speak and respond to the senator?
Maybe the board member, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. Our position is we want the public to weigh in on this before we consider a position. This bill is woefully not understood amongst the citizens of Charles County. We have always tried our very best to be accommodating, to make compromises, but the position of the Charles County Board is this bill is of such significance and it has so many possible amendments that the public needs the opportunity to weigh in on this. So,
and then just one more follow-up question, just has this issue ever, just for background, has this issue ever been brought up before? Is this, you said it wasn't brought up last year, but has voting rights for students ever come up before to the board?
Not to my knowledge, Ms. Washington. This is the first.
Oh, I thought you said you voted against it. I thought you said you listened to it.
We voted on a special work session that just took place this past November because it was just brought up, and we allowed for the public process. And this was the first time during this administration that this was even considered or discussed. And mind you,
thank you.
It was a public process.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Ms. Washington.
That completes the hearing on Senator Ellis. I'm sorry, Senator Patterson, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And let me thank those exceptional students who before us this afternoon to talk about participating in the electoral process. I guess I'm a little appalled at the strong, what I see is strong opposition to rather work with and work out situations as to opposed to drawing a line in the sand, if you will. I would like to ask Ms. Wilson and Ms. McLaughlin, I believe, what is it and how much time you think it would take to get the public fully involved? And I mean, you got a legislative process there. You got 3 delegates, you got a senator, you got a board of commissioners. I mean, what will be so great and so important that it cannot be done in a few weeks?
Well, it goes back to allowing for a public process. This bill never went to the commissioners. As far as I know, Commissioner Stewart is on this line, and the public never had a chance to view it. To put a timeline on that, I think we would be hard pressed. It's not impossible, but I think it would be better for the public that they be afforded a reasonable amount of time. What is the sense of urgency that it has to be done this year? I mean, so this is the first time that this is coming up. There hasn't been any town halls. There hasn't been any public participation, say from the county commissioners and the delegation that is open to all of the citizens. So why not afford the public given that we're under pandemic circumstances, this bill represents a significant change. So
Hey, thank you, Ms. Wilson. I think you answered this question.
thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, if I could just say, I like this bill, and I can't wait to support it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would say to the opponents, if voters were asked, would you like a local representative who could be, or just state, countywide
For
representative?
students on Charles
I
County.
think we know how that vote would turn out. And that's not to say process is not important, but I think we can offer speculation, isn't that so? Okay, that completes the hearing on Senator Ellis's bill.